In the late 8th century, a new era dawned upon Ireland, an era marked by the arrival of seafaring warriors from the north, the Vikings. These fierce warriors, hailing from what is now known as Scandinavia, made their presence known in a most unforgettable way. Their first recorded raid in Ireland took place in the year 795 on the peaceful island of Rathlin, off the northern coast. The monastic community there experienced firsthand the terror of a Viking assault. Yet the Vikings were not just raiders and plunderers, they were also settlers and traders. Following their initial raids, they began to establish permanent settlements, the most significant of which were Dublin, Waterford, Wexford, Cork, and Limerick. These Viking settlements grew into bustling trading centers, connecting Ireland to a broader network of commerce and exchange across the Viking world. The Vikings also became entwined in the complex web of Irish politics. They formed alliances and intermarried with Irish royal families, becoming not just invaders, but an integral part of the Irish political landscape. Their influence even permeated into Irish culture, leaving an indelible mark on the Irish language, art, and literature. Thus, the Viking Age in Ireland had begun, setting the stage for centuries of conflict and cultural exchange. Amidst this turmoil emerged a figure of strength and ambition, Brian Boru, who would play a pivotal role in the Battle of Clontarf. Born into the royal Dal-GK dynasty in the mid-10th century, Brian Boru was a man of humble beginnings, yet his destiny was anything but ordinary. In the world of constant strife, he rose above the fray to become one of the most powerful men in Ireland. His ambition was more than just personal gain. Brian Boru envisioned an Ireland united under a single rule, his own. Starting as the mere king of a small Irish kingdom, Brian Boru's rise to power was nothing short of meteoric. He was a master strategist, both on the battlefield and in the political sphere. His cunning and relentless determination led him to conquer rival kingdoms, swiftly rising through the ranks of Irish nobility. By the end of the 10th century, he had claimed the title of High King of Ireland, a feat unheard of in an era marked by fragmented rule. Yet his ambition didn't stop there. Brian Boru sought not only to rule but to unite Ireland, a task easier said than done. Ireland was a land divided not just among Irish kingdoms, but also between the native Irish and the Viking settlers. These Viking settlers, initially raiders and plunderers, had now established permanent settlements, adding a new layer of complexity to the Irish political landscape. Brian Boru's rule was marked by ongoing conflicts with these Viking settlers. He understood that to unite Ireland, he had to bring these Vikings under his rule. His reign was punctuated by numerous battles and skirmishes with the Vikings, each one bringing him a step closer to his goal of a united Ireland. Brian Boru's ambition and power set him on a collision course with the Vikings, leading to the historic Battle of Clontarf. His story is far from over, and the stage is set for what would become one of the most iconic battles in the history of Ireland. As tensions escalated, the stage was set for a conflict that would change the course of Irish history, the Battle of Clontarf. The seeds of this monumental battle were sown in the fertile soil of political alliances and conflicts that intertwined the destinies of the Irish kingdoms and the Viking settlers. The Viking settlers, once invaders, had become an integral part of the Irish socio-political landscape by the turn of the 11th century. They established flourishing trade centers like Dublin and intermarried with the Gaelic nobility, creating a complex network of alliances and rivalries. Within this intricate tapestry, the figure of Brian Boru rose to prominence. The High King of Ireland, his ambition was to unite the fractious Irish kingdoms under his rule. This goal, though noble in its intent, ruffled many feathers, not least among the Vikings, who viewed his rise as a threat to their own power. The Vikings, in turn, were not a united front. The settlers were often at odds with seafaring Vikings from Scandinavia, who sought to exploit Ireland's riches. These internal Viking conflicts further complicated the political landscape, creating a volatile mix of power dynamics. The tensions reached a boiling point when Mael Morda, the King of Leinster, revolted against Brian Boru's overlordship. Feeling marginalized and threatened by Boru's growing influence, Mael Morda sought support from the Vikings. Sigtryg Silkbeard, the Viking king of Dublin, and his mother Germla, who was also Mael Morda's sister and Brian Boru's ex-wife, willingly joined the rebellion. This alliance between the Leinster Irish and the Dublin Vikings attracted other disgruntled Irish kings and Viking warlords. They saw in this coalition a chance to curb Brian Boru's ambition and reassert their own power. The tension was palpable, the air thick with anticipation and uncertainty. And so the stage was set for the Battle of Clontarf, a clash that would echo through the annals of history. The stakes were high, the players were ready, and the course of Irish history hung in the balance. On Good Friday 1014, the forces of Brian Boru and the Viking coalition met on the battlefield of Clontarf. The Battle of Clontarf, a day-long conflict, was one of the most significant battles in Irish history. As the sun rose on Good Friday, April 23, 1014, the grassy plains of Clontarf were about to bear witness to an epic showdown between the forces of Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, and the allied Norse Gaelic factions led by Sigtrig Silkbeard of Dublin and Mael Morda of Leinster. The battle was meticulously planned. Brian Boru's forces, a coalition of Irish clans and Viking mercenaries, were strategically divided into three main sections. On the left were the men of Connaught under the command of his son, Murchad. The center was held by the Dalgay, led by Brian's other son, Donchad. The right flank was manned by the foreign contingents, the Viking mercenaries from the Isle of Man and the Scottish Highlands. On the opposing side, the Norse Gaelic alliance was also divided into three main groups. The Dublin Vikings held the left, the foreign Vikings, mostly from the Orkney Islands, held the center, and the men of Leinster held the right. As the day progressed, the battle raged on with neither side gaining a clear advantage. The clash of swords, the cries of the wounded, and the roars of the warriors echoed across the battlefield. It was a brutal, bloody conflict, a true testament to the fierce determination of both sides. However, as the sun began to set, the tide of the battle turned. Murchad, Brian's son and one of his most skilled warriors, led a daring charge that broke through the enemy lines. His heroic efforts, however, came at a great cost. Murchad fell in the heat of the battle, a loss that deeply affected the morale of Boru's forces. Yet, the battle was far from over. The death of Murchad ignited a spark of vengeance in the hearts of the Irish warriors. They rallied and launched a ferocious counterattack, pushing back the Norse Gaelic alliance. The foreign Vikings, seeing the battle turn against them, retreated, leaving the Dublin Vikings and the men of Leinster to face the wrath of Boru's forces. In the midst of this chaos, Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, met his end. While praying in his tent, he was slain by a fleeing Viking warrior, a tragic end to a man who had fought tirelessly to unite Ireland under one rule. Despite his death, Brian Boru's forces emerged victorious, marking a turning point in the Viking Age in Ireland. The Battle of Clontarf was a decisive blow to the Viking power in Ireland. It signaled the end of their dominance and marked the beginning of a new era. The legacy of Brian Boru and the Battle of Clontarf would resonate through the ages, shaping the course of Irish history. The Battle of Clontarf marked the beginning of the end for the Viking Age in Ireland. This monumental clash left a lasting imprint on the landscape of power in the Emerald Isle. In the wake of the battle, the Viking power that once held sway began to wane. Their once feared longships were no longer the harbingers of chaos and destruction. Brian Boru, though he fell in the battle, achieved his objective. His forces broke the Viking stranglehold, and his death only served to cement his legend. His name became synonymous with courage and resilience, a symbol of Irish resistance against foreign invaders. His legacy continued in his descendants, the O'Brien dynasty, who held significant power in Ireland for centuries. The Battle of Clontarf itself became a landmark in Irish history, a symbol of the end of one era and the beginning of another. It marked the decline of Viking influence and the rise of native Irish dynasties. The echoes of this battle can still be heard in the folklore and legends of Ireland, a testament to its significance. The end of the Viking Age in Ireland did not mean the end of their influence, though. The Vikings left an indelible mark on Ireland, from their impact on trade and economy to their contributions to art and culture. Their legacy is interwoven with the fabric of Irish history. And so, the Battle of Clontarf brought an end to the Viking Age in Ireland, leaving a legacy that continues to shape Ireland to this day.